Part C, we're asked to find the absolute maximum and the absolute minimum of the function g from -4 to 12. So we do want to keep in mind that since g is defined as the integral of f, and it gave us a graph of f, then f is also what g prime would look like. We have a graph of g prime essentially. And to find absolute extrema on a closed interval, we need to look at the value of the function at each endpoint, and we need to find the value of the function at any local extrema. Since I have here a graph of g prime, and it changes from negative to positive at -2, I know g will have a local minimum when x is -2, because f, which is g prime, changes from negative to positive. And I can see here at +6 that g prime, which is equal to f, changes from positive to negative. So these are the two x values I want to check. This would be possibly the absolute minimum. It's definitely a local minimum. And this could be where the absolute maximum is, definitely where a local maximum is. But I definitely want to check these endpoints as well. I also took a moment to go ahead and write in all the areas for these shapes, because since g is defined as an integral, I'll need the area as an integral, the integral as an area, to find the value of the function. I didn't put signs on these things, but what you're going to see me do, I'm going to pause the video, and I'm going to go ahead and figure out what g of -4 is by finding that integral. I'll find g of 12. I'll also find g of -2, and I'll find g of 6 by evaluating this integral with the appropriate signs. I don't want you to watch me do all that stuff, so I'm going to pause, and then, like Hollywood magic, in the next moment, all the calculations will be there. It's going to be amazing. So I'll walk you through my calculations very briefly. To find g of -4, I integrated from 2 to -4. So I'm starting here at 2, and I'm going in this direction. So since dx is moving in a negative direction and these y values are positive, I would consider this as a -8. As I continue left, dx is a negative direction, these y values would be negative, so a negative and a negative make a positive, so I have a +4. G of -4 ends up equaling -4. Calculating g of 12, I'm going to integrate from 2 to 12, this function. I am now going from 2 in the direction of 12, so dx is moving in a positive direction, so I'm going to basically take this is going to be +8, this is going to be -8, oh, that's going to be -4, whoopsie, that's embarrassing. So g of 12 is going to be -4. Better. Moving along to g of -2, where I know there's going to be a local minimum, since f, which equals g prime, changes from negative to positive. 2 to -2, I start at 2. I move towards -2, so dx is moving in a negative direction. These are positive y values, so negative times positive, it's going to be -8. And finally, g of 6, I'm going to integrate from 2 to 6, so going from 2 towards 6. dx is moving in a positive direction. The y values are also positive. It's +8. Now, looking at these various values, I need to consider which of these is the absolute biggest and which of these is the absolute smallest. And we can see that the absolute minimum happens when x equals -2, and the absolute minimum is -8. And the absolute max happens when x equals 6. So I would write something like absolute min of -8 when x equals -2, and the absolute max of +8 when x equals 8. Now honestly, I could just say these values and not, I could leave those off according to the way the question's worded. It just says find the absolute min and the absolute max. And then as far as justifying my answer, all of this work that I showed justifies the answer. They're going to want to see that if a student who needs to find an absolute min or maximum on a closed interval knows to check the endpoints on the interval to see if the absolute maximum happens there, and also check any local extrema, and then pick the largest and smallest values. That was worth 4 points. One of those points was for knowing to check these local extrema. One of the points was for knowing to check the endpoints. And then 2 was your answer with all this justification. Yeah, that's it. Definitely a process there. So you have to understand the whole process, think it through, and you'll figure it out. It'll make sense. Good luck.